Hey folks, TK here again, and this time answering another one of your general questions from TAE PD Week. And this question came in again early on, and I'm just going to flick in the background of my screen here because there was two parts to this. I'll read the entire question. I'll just put a prompt down the bottom in just a moment. And the question was how to design engagement that doesn't involve things like pair share and snowball. I'm not sure what snowball is. I haven't heard of that one. And other games that many students dread and refuse to participate in. And the second part of that, I broke that up, and this got a few votes, folks. They said subtle engagement. They'd like advice on subtle engagement of the reluctant player slash introvert slash person who would rather fail than do icebreakers or team building, group participation type activities. Well, first thing that I would flag on that is, I don't experience that a lot in my classrooms. I've got to be perfectly honest with you. I don't experience that reluctance or the dread to use that term. So I want to caveat everything I say with maybe I don't have a lot of experience in that space. That being said, I've got a lot of experience, as do all of you, in delivering training to introverts, extroverts. And I say that because the data shows that is pretty much split half and half down the population. 50% of the population fall into the introvert category and the other 50% into the extrovert category. So there's a good chance you've got people from one side of the fence to the other in your room. Now, the first thing I would say, regardless of whether they're introverts or extroverts, that personality default, which is where introversion and extroversion comes from, most of the data suggests that only accounts for about 30% of a person's behavior. So let me say that again. A person's behavioral profile or their personality profile really only can reliably account for about 30% of their behavior. That is, about 70% of the time, the person is influenced by other factors around them. So to say that I'm an introvert and therefore that dictates all my behavior when I interact with the big wide world and when I interact with people is not the case. That's not what the data shows us. It does reliably predict about 30% of a person's behavior. Now that leaves a big 70% for us to play with. Now, so I wanted to say that right up from the start. So there are a couple of things that I do differently, or make sure that I cater for extroverts and introverts in the room. And I learnt this a while ago when I was training TAE, where a student actually said to me, Tony, he pulled me aside and he said, Tony, don't forget that there's introverts in the room here. And what I noticed on reflection is that my training and the RTO that I was training with at the time, the design was very focused, the delivery was very focused or lend itself towards extroverted personalities. And so what I started to do was integrate moments of reflection, what we sometimes call wakeful rest, or this opportunity to just do what I call a cognitive offload, just offload a bit of information on your own. And so rather than always doing a 2-minute, 2.5-minute, 3-minute pair share, I'll often say to people now, just take 60 seconds, just take 2 minutes on your own and make a few notes as to what we've talked about. Just reflect on the key points that we've discussed. So the first thing that I try to do is give those people that prefer to work alone an opportunity to work alone. So it's worth doing a bit of a stock take on, well, what are the types of activities that I do? Now, the last thing I'll say on this, I don't want the video to go for too long, but the last thing I'll say on this is when I read this question is, what kind of icebreakers, what kind of activities are we doing? And are we doing those we talked about this, a psychologically safe environment. We talked about that in the webinar. So do people feel safe to participate? And, I get the sense I don't really have that dread of It's not common of people not wanting to participate. I hope because I'm setting up a psychologically safe environment. The other way to do that is to lower the interpersonal risk. And again, we talked about this in the webinar. So rather than doing large group activities, do just pair activities where two people can pair up. And those people that dread the big group activities, they can kind of get along in a pair or a trio. And if you have to, increase it to 4. I know I said that wasn't my ideal group, but if you have to, increase it to 4 and so on and so forth. So there's a fair bit in there. I've outlined about 4 or 5 points in response to that detailed question. I hope that was of some use if that was your question. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video, hopefully. Bye for now.